When I first got my 4AGE engine, I knew that I wanted to get intake trumpets for it, but I couldn't figure out which length would work best on it. So I ended up reaching out to Technotoy Tuning, and they graciously provided me with a couple of sets of intake trumpets. In this video, I'm going to test to see if the length of the trumpet changes the way the engine sounds, changes the way it drives, and also to see if it makes any difference in the power output. If you love the sound of ITBs, you're going to love this video. Alrighty, enjoy. These are my 100mm trumpets that I daily drive every day. They've been working really well for me and they have such a great sound. I mean, the low end is good, got a lot of low end power. Oh, you can really hear the ITBs. Listen to that, holy cow. Jeez Louise. Wow, that is incredible. That is a hell of a sound. The 100mm trumpets sound fantastic. All right, now let's do a downhill high rev. See how it does. Holy moly. God, does that sound good. Good power too. Like there's just like solid power across the entire rev range. It doesn't taper off, and it makes just an amazing sound while it's doing it. I'm curious to see how the 75mm and the 50 will compare to this. So these are the 75mm trumpets. They're supposed to be right in between the 100 and the 50mm trumpets, the shorties. So the performance, I guess, should be somewhere in the middle. So let's see how it does with low end torque. We'll get it down to like about 2,500 RPMs. Let's see. Not that much. Whoa, look at that. Hey, it builds the power quite a bit more aggressively than the hundreds. The hundreds kind of hit right away. You have like power right away at 2,500 RPMs. While the 75s kind of, there's nothing, and then it builds, bam, right to the level. Like it feels similar to the hundreds. All right, now let's try a downhill high RPM pull to compare it to the hundreds. Ooh, the pitch of the engine is higher now. It is higher, isn't it? 25mm difference, and the pitch of the engine changes quite drastically. It's actually pretty surprising. I thought it would have sounded exactly the same as the hundreds. I thought it shouldn't be that big of a difference. All right, now it's time to test the 50 millimeter trumpets and see how they compare to the 75 and the 100. Now we're on to the 50 millimeter trumpet, and right off the bat, I noticed that the sound of the engine has changed. That throatiness and that rumble from the 100 and the 75 is almost gone. So let's do second gear, 2,500 RPM, kind of like we did on the 75. Let's see. Yeah, a lot less torque down low. Oh, there's the surge. There's the surge. Right at 5,500 RPM, it just all of a sudden surges and it gains a lot of power. Strangely enough, like right around 5,000 RPMs is when these start actually pulling. But below 5, there's just like a whole lot of nothing. I didn't think it would make that big of a difference, but it does. It's changed the personality of this engine. Now let's do a higher RPM pull and see if it's any different. Oh, that sounds good. Boy, 50 millimeters do sound really nice between 7 and 8,000 RPMs. Between 7 and 8, it really starts resonating good. It's just too bad that they don't sound as awesome down low. You kind of lose that low RPM rumble that you get on the 75 and the 100s. All right, let's wrap it up. It's the night before the dyno test, and it's raining outside and kind of miserable, but I want to change the oil in the engine just before I do the dyno test to make sure that the engine's ready to go. My 4AG is mostly stock. I'm running the stock 20 valve blacktop header going into the original catalytic converter from the FX16. I'm pretty sure this is a major bottleneck in my exhaust system, and I have somebody that's working on a nice new ram horn header for this engine. Looking at you, Alan, at SMR. Once I get that in, I'm going to dyno test the engine again and see if that addresses any of my ultimate power peak levels. But until then, let's just change the oil in the car and get it ready for tomorrow. A question I often get asked with my 4AG is what kind of oil I run in it. I run Mobil 1 full synthetic 15W50 oil. It's a little bit thicker and it allows for higher oil pressure, which allows the VVT gear to work well in the 20 valve blacktop. It's midnight and the Corolla is finally ready for its big day tomorrow. The engine oil has been replaced, everything's been checked, everything is tight and ready to go. I went back to RPM Performance to do the dyno tests. It's a really great shop that builds some pretty amazing engines, and the guys over there do really good work. I'll be using them for all my future tests to keep the results consistent. So this is how it's going to go down. I'm going to test the 100mm trumpets first, then I'm going to move on to the 75mm, and then the 50mm. And last, I have a secret trumpet I'm going to test. After finishing all the tests, did trumpet length have any effect on the power output of the 4AGE? The dyno test results seem to reflect what I felt behind the wheel. The hundreds have more torque down low, and ultimately the highest peak power. The 75s lose out some low end and were second in peak power, and the 50s had the least torque down low of all the trumpets. But if you compare them to the hundreds, you can see the power was still rising, meaning that with more revs, the 50s could actually make more power. The stock rubber trumpets were the worst. While they had good low-end torque, there was nothing at the top end. Even the dyno tester noted the 4AGE felt like it had a harder time getting to redline with the stock trumpets. So, does trumpet length have an effect on power? Yes, it very much does. Get the longest ones you can fit in your engine bay. But the bigger question is, should you even bother to replace your stock rubber trumpets with aftermarket ones? Absolutely. All 3 aftermarket trumpets make more power than the stock ones do, and the engine is so much more fun to rev out to redline. And the sound they make is so intoxicating. The aftermarket trumpets will make you really appreciate your 4AGE. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I got a lot more things that I'm going to be doing to this car later this year, so if you want, you can subscribe and see what's coming up next. But for now, thanks for watching, and until next time, huh?